Mapletail here. Today is my reaction to the newest book in the Warrior Cat series, Ivypool's Heart. So spoiler warning for the entire book. And we're drawing a piece inspired by a scene from the end of the book. Let's get into it. As usual, this isn't a formal review, more my thoughts chapter by chapter. I've already talked about the first few chapters of this book when the preview was released, so we're jumping right into chapter 4. Our cats are just starting their journey inspired by Whistlepaw's cryptic vision. They've been stuck from bad weather for 3 days now. Dovewing gives Ivypool only those days before making her talk about Bristlefrost, after a chapter ago saying she'd wait till Ivypool was ready. I'm glad the talk went well, but the situation rubbed me the wrong way. Icewing overhears the conversation, and they asked how she got over the death of her son Beetlewhisker, who also died in the Dark Forest, never to make it to StarClan. Okay, I'll admit I forgot about that plot point. But really, she didn't. But she gives them some wisdom about how she continues on anyways. It was a really nice moment. I'm glad Ivypool feels a little less alone. Her situation is very rare among the clan cats, but there are people who can understand. Our cats find a barn to hunt in, and they are attacked by the cats who live there. We find out these cats have met warriors, but not from the lake. It's brought up that it could be Riverclan from Greystrip's vow, which I would love to see. But instead of getting more information, our cats heavily insult the kitty pets in their own territory. Great! Ivypool is aware of how many former kitty pets have lived in ThunderClan and that she is descended from at least 2 of them, right? The kitty pets then set dogs on our cats. Everyone makes it back safely and laugh about the absurdity of the situation, of cats working with dogs. It was nice to see Ivypool feel some joy, even if it was just for a moment. Chapter 5. Still stuck in bad weather and unable to find any prey, our cats decide to venture into the nearby two-leg place to begrudgingly look for kitty pet food. They run into 2 cats instead, brothers Slate and Beach. From the way they spoke, it was clear pretty quick that they were born among the sisters, and when Rootspring revealed his heritage, they were excited to meet him. Also, Beach attempting to hit on the way too old for him Dovewing was a very funny moment. The brothers offer our cats shelter and give them some hope of this journey going somewhere. Our cats teach the 2 young cats about how to keep a camp tidy, Dovewing telling them that it'll help with the ladies. Whistlepaw also helps Beach with a nasty old wound. Ivypool is furious at the sisters for sending their sons away and so young. Understandable, especially considering her grief over her own kit. Beach gives the flirting another go with Whistlepaw this time. These kids. Him calling her fur very tabby? Peak comedy. Our group actually give the 2 a fair bit of good advice about talking to she-cats. Kinda nice to see from a series that often messes that up, in my opinion. When the brothers try and fail to connect to the earth to help our cats in return, they offer to take them to the sisters for help instead. Not where I thought this book was going, to be honest. Chapter 6. On the way to the sisters, the group is attacked by the dogs from earlier. Ivypool scares off one as everything overwhelming her bubbles to the surface, and she brutally attacks the other as it grabs Slate, not realizing until after that she'd used techniques learned from her time in the Dark Forest. Icewing nodding in understanding. The 2 have a lot more in common than I would have thought. They make it to the sisters and tell them all that has happened since they'd last seen the clans. I'd forgotten they'd helped get the lights in the mist into the place of no stars in the first place. Look, there's a lot that happens in these books, okay? Their inclusion is starting to make a bit more sense to me though, as everything's coming together. The sisters also mention meeting the park cats that we recently met in a starless clan. A cool thing to include. Little things like that help this world feel a little more connected. Things take a turn for the depressing when the sisters try to commune with the spirits of the cats who didn't survive after they helped get into the Dark Forest. Greystripe and Bristlefrost. Silence greets the calls for Bristlefrost's spirit, making Ivypool feel the intensity of her loss all over again. I am devastated for her. Chapter 7. Ivypool gets directions from Snow to the fox-shaped mountain that they're looking for. Snow also has some unwanted advice for Rootspring, telling him that he shouldn't be alone, that he should think about taking a new mate and having a family of his own. Not a great thing to say to the grieving Tom. And even worse, coming from one of the sisters who would have cast out Rootspring when he came of age, away from his family, making him alone. Yes, Rootspring will have to move on from his grief eventually, in whatever form that will take, but he really did not need to hear all that from Snow right now. Not to mention, there is more to life and moving on than just jumping into another relationship. Chapter 8. Back to the journey. It's been a few days, and Whistlepaw has gotten another clue from StarClan in the form of a dream. Hearing the words, "In the shadows of the fox, follow the white feather." The cats point out that the fox obviously refers to the mountain, and I have a feeling that the white feather has something to do with the gulls that Snow warned Ivypool about when giving directions. After a nice moment with our group running into a pine marten, and Ivypool not wanting to kill it because it was so neat, we have some more hunting fails and a run-in with two legs and horses, all leading to our group becoming very lost. Again. Chapter 9. A successful hunt gets our cats back on track, and they rest in what they call an apple forest for the night. A pretty cool location. More chaos ensues in the morning as monsters fill the orchard, and Ivypool saved Whistlepaw from being crushed. The panic at the thought of having to tell her mother, Featherpelt, that her daughter had died being a strong driving force. Chapter 10. Our cats get far enough that the Foxhead Mountain becomes visible, and they also spot some two-leg signs with gull feathers on them. Whistlepaw's dream all coming together? Ivypool dozes off while the others hunt, dreaming of the dark forest. She's taunted by images of Flametail and Broken Star, shaming her for hoping to catch a glimpse of her daughter in that terrible place. Heartbreakingly, she also sees Beetle Whisker and Bristlefrost, the two silent, together, but unaware of each other. Ivypool unable to reach them. Alone, lost, gone forever. What a horrible nightmare. Chapter 11. Our cats continue on in the morning, facing more trouble with two legs as Whistlepaw is scooped up and put in a car by a kid. I actually thought this was going to go somewhere, but they get her out within the chapter. There was more gull imagery on the two legs' clothes, which matched their car, but I'm not super clear what that's all about. Chapter 12. They find an actual seagull and follow it. After a climb, Whistlepaw starts to recognize some of the landscape from her vision. They run into a black and white Tom, who was once called Jake, one who recognizes the word clan. Interesting. Also a pretty interesting name choice, as we've had a pretty prominent character called Jake before. Our cats end the chapter hiding in a tunnel after run-ins with gulls and crabs. Chapter 13. The tunnel starts to fill with water due to the rising sea. Our cats manage to get out in time and climb to safety. And everyone is hungry again. They spend a lot of time hunting, or at least trying to hunt, in this book. They end up finding a strange two-leg wall with the scents and sounds of strange animals. It's giving zoo, maybe? Circus? Exotic pets? I'm not sure yet. Chapter 14. Ivypool has another nightmare about Bristlefrost, and we learn of Rootspring's dreams of her, of the life he is so sure they would have had together. And yeah, it sounds about right for what the Aarons would have written. Rootspring moving to ThunderClan, and he and Bristlefrost having 3 kits. I also recognize it from Bristlefrost's final moments. As much as I love kits and seeing how they'll take after their parents and all that, and the new generation, it's all just something I enjoy reading. I do find it a little odd to make Bristlefrost's death so much about how she missed out on being a mother. Her life had more value than just having children, as everyone's does. I just can't help but wish that that aspect of this terrible, terrible loss of this character wasn't so focused on. It does make me very grateful that this book is from Ivypool's perspective, though, and not Rootspring's. That would have drove me absolutely crazy. My thoughts on Bristlefrost's and Rootspring's relationship and the way their characters were handled at the end aside, Whistlepaw has another dream too, which leads them to explore the place they had found. The place is very rundown and full of caged animals that our cats don't recognize. But I do. Based on their descriptions, we've got a giraffe, a zebra, a snake, and a wolf for sure. Not so sure about what they call a weasel badger, but most interesting of all are the 2 creatures that spoke our cat's language, more or less. To quote Ivypool, they were 2 solid tabbies, taller and broader than any cat she had ever seen before, with bushy, blunt-tipped tails. What? This book has been a bit slow and samey the last 10 chapters, but now I'm interested. Chapter 15. The tabbies explain that the 2 legs there capture animals and trade them to other 2 legs. And the Tom tabby tells us that he and his mate, who is expecting kits, have been there a very long time, and that the 2 of them are wildcats. Very interesting. I'm assuming these are the creatures from the blurb with surprising ties to the clans? The two of their names are Tumbleleap and Stockpurr. They certainly have names reminiscent of warriors. They even reveal that their group had also been called a clan. Whistlepaw draws the symbol from her vision in hopes the Wildcats will recognize it. And they do, telling us it's the symbol of StormClan, the clan that birthed the Wildcats group. Hello? What? They also recognize the tree from the vision, a place called the Star Tree, used in a similar fashion to the moon pool. This is absolutely fascinating. Unfortunately, it sounds like this mysterious clan of wildcats are all but gone due to loss of territory from Two Legs. It was really cool though to hear about their group. Different but also so similar to our cat's home. This has to be related to the great wrong that our cats set out to right. Chapter 16. Our cats have to flee when a two-leg appears. They watch from afar as the two-leg treats the trapped animals cruelly. When our cats regroup, they discuss. Way too many of them think the Wildcats have nothing to do with the vision. What the hell? They recognize the symbol and the tree from the dream. Obviously, this is not only related, but probably the whole point of the journey. Whistlepaw manages to talk some sense into everybody, and they set off to find the Star Tree based on the Wildcats' vague directions, in hopes of discovering a little bit about what they're supposed to be doing. Reasonable enough. They find the tree pretty easily, only to find it's full of weasels. Chapter 17. A battle breaks out. I've been noticing Ivypool's worry about Whistlepaw throughout the book, and her desire to protect the younger cat really shows here. They fight off the weasels and check out the tree. They find a way inside, leaving Dovewing to keep watch. They even manage to make their way into a shared vision. They see the Wildcats' version of StarClan. It appears to be the same place they drifted off, but many seasons in the past. Chapter 18. Two Wildcats welcome them and lead them forward. Many cats sense filling the air, not only wildcats. They see a massive group of cats, some large and striped like the Wildcats, some smaller and fluffier like the sisters, and some smaller still, like the clan cats we know and love. Okay, am I starting to see how this is all coming together? One of the smaller cats approaches the group and introduces herself as Galestar, leader of StormClan, the one who sent the vision to Whistlepaw that started this journey. Galestar tells the group that StormClan was once a clan alongside the ones we are familiar with many, many moons ago, but that it was willingly forgotten. What? When? Okay, maybe I don't know where this is going. This must have happened after Dawn of the Clans, but before SkyClan was driven out? Speaking of SkyClan, this is sounding like a similar situation at first glance. How many more clans were there outside of the original 4? Galestar goes on to share her story. Many seasons ago, but long after the clans were created, Galestar led Wind Clan, and she was in love with ThunderClan's leader, Stripestar. In effort to be together, the two tried to combine their clans into one, StormClan. Oh, Thunder and Wind. Storm? That actually makes a lot of sense. So it actually started more like TigerClan than its own thing, without the violence and cruelty. Galestar speaks of the Blazing Star prophecy from the beginning of the clans that said there must always be 5. It makes sense our cats don't recognize it, as it was only just recently that SkyClan found their way home. When Two Legs caused trouble for the ancient clans, StormClan was blamed and left. How very SkyClan. We still have WindClan and ThunderClan today, as some of the cats gave up on the journey and returned to the forest. Many more died. They settled near the Sundrown place, and Galestar had a new litter of kits. The former ThunderClan cats wanted to live somewhere safer, and Stripestar agreed, leading the group away, ignoring Galestar's fears for the young kits' lives. And she was right to worry. A terrible storm hit, causing Galestar to fall behind and forcing her to seek shelter alone with her kits. It sounds like she may have even hid in the same tunnel that our cats had. More bad luck, a large rock fell, blocking her in. She and her children were trapped. After a time, they heard StormClan searching for them, but they never found them. Galestar, and honestly I, thought they would all die in that tunnel. But they were rescued by Wildcats. The Wildcats took them in, and Galestar found a new life there, and a new love in a cat called Bound Hunt. And we now get to the point. Galestar wants our cats to save the trapped Wildcats as repayment for the kindness the Wildcats showed her all those seasons ago, telling the group that there are more Wildcats not far from there. It's a pretty touching story, but I can't help but feel this isn't that terrible of a wrong that needs to be righted by the clans, like was teased in the blurb. It was more like one clan cat abandoning another, mostly by accident and more or less for a good reason. I'm all for saving the wildcats and bringing them home, but I feel a little let down by that particular phrasing. That said, the whole idea of StormClan is very cool, and I'm very curious to see where they ended up and if they're still around. Wild theory time. The sisters have been mentioned many times throughout this book. Could they be descendants of StormClan? We also learn that the latter part of Whistlepaw's vision, the River of Blood, warning about if our journeying cats fail, wasn't sent by Galestar. But she does warn that failure will result in Stockpurr's and Tumbleleap's kits being taken away by Two Legs. Also, she shares the kits' names with us: Pounce, Stretch, and Hunt. Galestar has a special connection to kits since her death, and can see a little bit of what to come related to them. Ivypool feels re-inspired to complete the quest, kits also being very important to her own motivations. Whew, that was a long one and a lot to take in. Chapter 19. Our cats leave the Wildcats' afterlife and fill in Dovewing. Everyone has a lot of feelings about it all. Whistlepaw being appalled that such an important part of clan history had been forgotten. Rootspring makes it a bit all about him, agonizing over how hard it was for him and Bristlefrost to be together, while two clan leaders could make it work. Well, work is maybe a strong word. Ivypool has feelings over Galestar not returning to StormClan after being rescued, reminding her of feeling abandoned by Dovewing, leaving for ShadowClan. Dovewing having related feelings about how if she could have, she would have combined ThunderClan and ShadowClan, so she could have been with her mate and sister. Ivypool disagreed with the idea, but Rootspring was all for it, in a ThunderClan SkyClan way. Wow, it kinda sounds like maybe the clans would be better off if they weren't so separate. That's crazy, who would have thought? I think they are going in the right direction with allowing cats to switch clans, even with the trials and all that, but sometimes I do miss the looser rules of Dawn of the Clans, where it wasn't uncommon for cats to move around to find where they fit in best, and not only for love. Icewing, though, just wants everyone to shut up and finish the mission. Fair enough, I am worried about the state of Riverclan too. They reach Stockpurr and Tumbleleap and share all that they've learned and convince them to try to escape. Ooh. Chapter 20. The plan is extremely chaotic. Our cats manage to distract the Two-Legs dog, while the Wildcats attack the Two-Leg while he opened the cage to feed them. They also manage to rile up the rest of the animals enough that they burst out of their run-down cages. All the cats work together and get out of there safely. Chapter 21. The Wildcats find fresh water for everyone, and explain that they were raised to believe that they are deeply connected to the elements, and that each element holds the spirit of their ancestors, and that can help with things like finding water. Very neat bit of lore. Rootspring mentions that it all reminds him of the sisters and how their toms are raised to be connected to the earth. So many sisters mentions. Is this just for the hell of it, or is there more of a connection there? Then it's more hunting. They find a jellyfish though, which was neat, and it was nice to have some moments between the Wildcats and the clan cats. There's some cool history there for sure. Chapter 22. Stockpurr and Ivypool walk together and have a really lovely conversation. They speak about loss, Stockpurr telling Ivypool that she gets past the grief of losing her two earlier litters by knowing they aren't really gone, and tells Ivypool it must be the same for Bristlefrost. After Ivypool explains that her daughter is gone, Stockpurr helps her look at it in a new way, saying that Ivypool's seen so many things she never thought possible on this journey, and that the world is so much bigger than she knows, and thus, so is the afterlife. The clans aren't all-knowing. We know that much for sure after all this. Maybe, just maybe, Bristlefrost is still around, in some form or another. It changed something in Ivypool, opened her eyes. She suddenly saw the world around her differently, its beauty, its color. So much she never would have seen if not for this journey. Instead of only grief, she began to feel gratitude. Gratitude that she is one of the few cats who gets to see this beautiful landscape around her. Gratitude that she had Bristlefrost for as long as she did. Gratitude that she was lucky enough to meet her in the first place. She could see now that there was a world where she might not have. That being her mother was a precious gift, if brief. Gratitude that she met Stockpurr, who helped her see things in a new way. Oh my god, all of that made me tear up, to be honest. Chapter 23. We leave that beautiful moment behind as our cats are nearly killed by a monster on the highway. Only Rootspring knew it was coming, and nearly too late. He explains he could see the ghosts of the cats who died there. Honestly, I kinda forgot he still had his ghost sight powers. One of the ghosts tell Rootspring that they will guide them to a safer crossing. Very kind. And they make it far, to a forest that is filled with more prey we've seen all book. Thank goodness. But not far enough, as Stockbur goes into labor. Chapter 24. They find a safe spot, and Whistlepaw quietly asks Ivypool for help, admitting she's never delivered kits on her own before. Ivypool has some feelings, grief, but also more acceptance. There's actually a lot of that to go around. With Dovewing and Rowan Kit, as well as Icewing and Beetlewhisker, all of our mothers this book have suffered at least one terrible loss. Hunt and Stretch were born with no issues, but Pounce took some effort. Ivypool and Dovewing were both filled with panic, even after the kit started breathing, thinking of their own children. It almost felt as though it sent them into panic attacks. Our poor girls. But it was nice to see them connect over it, and that Ivypool was able to be there for Dovewing and her grief. Chapter 25. Ivypool dreams of the River of Blood, the destruction of Riverclan, and worst of all, Frostpaw's death. When she awoke, it sounds like everyone had the same dream. Clearly a warning they needed to wrap this journey up fast and repay the debt to the Wildcats. To be honest, I'm still unclear on how exactly the two events are related, unless a Wildcat returns to the clans with our group and ends up being instrumental in saving Riverclan or something. Food for thought. Everyone is upset by the dream, but it clearly affects Whistlepaw the most, outside of Icewing, of course. I can only imagine how horrible it would be to see her friend perish like that. Tumbleleap tells the cats that he is excited to learn his kit's full names, explaining that they will be given last names when presented to their ancestors, and it depends on which ancestor will have a connection to them. Very cool. I was wondering how the naming would work for Wildcats. Feeling the pressure of the dream, Ivypool and Icewing set off to search for the descendants of StormClan, while the others stay behind to help with the kits. Oh, so can I just say how odd it is to call them that? The Wildcats had their own group and traditions long before Galestar joined, was my understanding. Yes, surely a few still have StormClan blood, but it feels odd to put so much importance on it, now that we've heard the full story. Am I missing something there? It's like calling ThunderClan the descendants of kitty pets, just because Firestar joined when they needed more cats. I'm liking a lot about this book right now, mostly for the new lore, but a few things were definitely not clicking for me plot-wise. Chapter 26. Ivypool and Icewing hunt together on their way, and Ivypool remarks to herself that even though she's against clans joining as one, she liked the idea of being in the same clan as the strong and clever Icewing. Just thought that was a sweet moment, and a little gay. Icewing mentions meditation and offers to teach Ivypool. Huh. I thought a big point of Wind was that Riverclan had forgotten the tradition of meditation, which is why Frostpaw had to travel so far to learn it from the park cats. Ivypool mentions that the younger cats of her clan have forgotten the habit, which is something, but still. Anyways, they find the scent of the Wildcats and a Wildcat. Chapter 27. The Wildcat is aggressive until the newborn kits are mentioned, and our cat story is told. The Wildcat is called Strike Slash, and he leads the clan cats into camp. We also meet his mate, Wishstalk. Big fan of her name. And we meet the group's 3 elders. I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but I think it's really neat that the elders lead the Wildcats group, and are the ones to commune with their ancestors, and do some of the healing. Their names are Prowlsleek, Huntgrowl, and Springclaw. Huntgrowl catches my eye as they share a first name with one of the new kits. Could they be related in any way? The Wildcats are very cautious in spite of the news our cats bring. It definitely contrasts heavily with the warm welcome that Galestar had once received. Chapter 28. While waiting for the Wildcats to discuss, our cats meet the sole kit of the group, Hopscratch. She asks a lot of questions, including if Ivypool and Icewing are kits and if they want to play. Oh my god. I guess to a Wildcat, the clan cats might look a lot younger than they are, due to the size difference. The kit wishes there were more kits around to play, since her littermate died. I hope that wish comes true very soon. Hopscratch's mother, Clawstretch, also comes to say hi. More and more cats start to wander over to listen to our cat's story of their journey. That seems like a good sign to me. While the others eat, Ivypool has a nice moment with Clawscratch. telling her about her own kits, including Bristlefrost, and we learn a bit more about the wildcat's beliefs from her. She says that like clan cats, the dead fade away when forgotten, but they aren't totally gone. They become part of the elements instead. It's a really nice thought. I prefer it to the permanence of how clan cats see the afterlife. Claw Scratch encourages Ivypool to reach out around herself with her senses. Ivypool is both hopeful but unsure, but gives it a go. Just then, she sees a patch of clear sky, the exact shade of Bristlefrost's eyes, and she swore she could faintly smell her scent. Oh, she's unsure whether it's a sign or not, but is interrupted by the elders before she can decide. It's bad news. They don't believe the clan cat's story, and demand they leave by morning, refusing to bother the ancestors to fact-check it. What? Seriously? Why would they make up such a crazy story? And why not send someone just to go have a look for themselves? What the hell? They should have brought Tumbleweed along as proof, I guess. Chapter 29. That night, foxes attack the camp. This is perfect. Our cats can help fight them off and prove that they're honorable. And they do just that. The elders apologize and promise to commune with their ancestors in the morning, with the clan cats by their side. We get to see the ancestors speaking through the elders, saying that the lost and newborn wildcats will be happily accepted into the group. But first, there is something they must tell the clan cats. Ooh, okay. Chapter 30. The elders show our cats a log that they must rest in to travel to the afterlife, to hear what will be told. It's cool they have multiple ways into the afterlife. Reminds me of the Moonstone and the Moon Pool. They meet with Galestar. It sounds like meeting the clan cats stirred up old grief, and she needs help getting past it. That really is the theme of this book, huh? Pretty fitting. They suggest that she should travel to StarClan to see Stripestar. Now that's a conversation I would love to see. Let's do that. Apparently it's not even that hard. Galestar explains that oldie cat afterlives are connected by the River of Spirits. Fascinating. Getting so much new lore this book. Chapter 31. On the river, they pass the tribe of endless hunting, as well as the dark forest. The latter concerned me, but Galestar explains that clan cats usually can't access the river. Wild cats can only do it due to the knowledge passed down over many generations. Though there are clearly exceptions, as all 3 of the cats here are or were clan cats. Before making it to StarClan, Icewing has to pull Ivypool out of her temptation to go to the dark forest and look for Bristlefrost, in the tiny hope that a part of her could still be there. Heartbreaking. In StarClan, we see several former leaders, as well as Ferncloud taking care of Rowankit. Oh, that is so sweet. StarClan explains that they must not remember StormClan properly, because when living cats forget the dead who fade away, StarClan forgets them too. That's so sad. And more new lore. I wonder if that conflicts with anything written in the past. Actually, I'm sure it does. That would be classic warrior cats. Galestar tells them her story. As she does, the forgotten warriors of StormClan start to rematerialize all around them. Galestar is not pleased to see the cats, who she feels abandon her. Chapter 32. Stripestar appears too, telling us where he'd been. All around them in a way. Sounds very similar to what the wildcats had said, and it gave Ivypool more hope that her daughter really was still around, in a way. Icewing seems to reach the same conclusion about her son. I am truly happy for both of them. Galestar and Stripestar are able to talk and reconcile to a point. Stripestar is shocked that his mate and kits didn't die the night he lost them, saying that he mourned them for the rest of his life. I can only imagine how hard it would have been for him to go to StarClan and not see his family. Until now. Thunderstar references that there is much more to StormClan's history, more reasons that StarClan somewhat intentionally forgot them. It starts to come all together when our cats realize that StormClan needed to be returned to StarClan because they had wisdom that would soon be essential. Not sure what that could be, something about combining clans, or something else entirely. Chapter 33. Our cats return to the world of the living. Several wildcats join to fetch the lost wildcats. They find them quickly, and we get a lovely reunion and a bit more lore. Wildcats don't have mentors, but the ancestors the kits will be named for will guide them for their whole life. I really like the idea of that. And Ivypool gets a chance to tell her sister about Rowankit. So lovely. Everyone also gets to witness the ceremony for assigning the kits names and guides. The ancestor Whisperclaw chose to guide Pounce, giving them the name Pounce Whisper, while the other two end up being named Stretchblink and Huntleap. Tumbleleap and Stockpurr are also able to reconnect with their guides, Leapgrowl and Pearlroll, after so long. The chapter ends with the Wildcats and Clan Cats seeing each other as family and vowing to help each other in the future if needed. I hope that comes to pass. I would honestly love to see more of the Wildcats in their world, but for now, it's time to go home. The final chapter. Ivypool saw how hard it was for Rootspring to say goodbye to the kits he had bonded with, and she could see now that he was meant to be a father, even without Bristlefrost, and she vowed to support him in that when he was ready. After some travel, Ivypool dreams of Bristlefrost. Properly this time, not just a faint sighting or scent. I was honestly shocked. Bristlefrost tells Ivypool what we already know to be true. She isn't truly lost. She's everywhere. You just need to look. I was glad that Ivypool got that brief dream of reunion as a bit of closure and a sign that she was overcoming her grief. Upon awakening, we learned that Rootspring had the same dream. So was it really her then? I'm glad. The two then see a huge white deer, believing it to be a sign. Bristlefrost really was out there, all around them. The book closes out with Ivypool asking Rootspring if he'd ever take another mate one day, and Rootspring saying yes. Someone not to replace Bristlefrost, but someone worthy of her. He and Ivypool both got their closure, and I could not be happier about that. Also, thanks StarClan, we didn't have to read the walk all the way back home. Thanks for watching! This was a whole lot to process. The bad. There were like a solid 10 chapters that I thought were pretty typical boring journey stuff, and a few things stood out to me as being odd plot points or inconsistencies. But the good. Wow, what an amazing depiction of grief. Like, I could feel Ivypool's pain in my soul, along with looks into the grief of the other journeying cats and the mothers they met along the way, and Ivypool's journey towards acceptance and seeing the world in a new light, and how big it really was outside the clans, was incredibly beautiful. The lore. StormClan? Fascinating. The Wildcats? Even more so. There was so much there, and I would love a deeper dive into some of that. But either way, really cool to see another facet of this ever-expanding world. The relationships. Ivypool and Rootspring, Ivypool and Dovewing, Ivypool and Whistlepaw, Ivypool and Icewing. The dynamics there were also varied, and we love to see it. Hell, Ivypool and several cats we met along the way. There was a lot of good to go around. And lastly, Bristlefrost. I felt like this was a really beautiful farewell for her after how cruelly she was ripped away. But also not a farewell at all. Her spirit may be gone and how the clan cats typically think about it, but as we saw, some part of her, and every cat lost, will always be around in some little way. And I think that's pretty amazing. Let me know what you thought if you've given this book a read, and I'll see you next Thursday.